Good evening, it's 7 o'clock. I'm Nancy Nix, and I sure appreciate you being here this evening. I know everybody's alarmed by the severe increases in our property values. So what we're going to do is provide you with a PowerPoint presentation. I'll speak a little bit, and I have Mike Gilday behind me. He's our senior certified appraiser in the auditor's office and a commercial appraiser as well. And Mike Stein is our real estate director, so the three of us will be speaking for, 25, 30 minutes, and then we're going to have an hour for questions, because I know a lot of you have questions. And also, just remember, you can always call our office. It's 887-3154, and just push the button if you'd like to talk to an appraiser about your property value. So we try to be very informative, and I've just been in office about 8 months. Before that, I was the county treasurer for 16 years. So I've been around a while, but I haven't been the auditor a long time. I'm still in a learning mode, but these two gentlemen behind me, and also David Brown is back there, they have been here a lot longer. If there's something I can't answer, they will be able to. Mike Gilday and I have been out many times on the Dog and Pony Show, our road show, talking to a lot of realtors, but this is our first time talking to the general public. So I really appreciate you being here. I will mention, I got my political start here. I was vice mayor exactly 20 years ago here in Middletown. So it's nice to be in my old stomping grounds and to be here with all of you. I want to thank the City of Middletown for offering us this venue, and they're also recording it, so it will be on our website and the City of Middletown YouTube channel, so you can watch it again, or tell somebody that cannot come or could not be here tonight to watch it if they have questions. And I'm so glad, because the question and answer part is very important for the people at home. I introduced my staff. Also, when I became auditor 8 months ago, our biggest or our most important priorities are communication and education. So we are trying to be doing a lot of outreach. We're on Facebook, our website. We're trying to make sure that you know what's going on, and when we talk to you about what's going on, that you know we can provide evidence that you believe that it's true. It's very important. Transparency, honesty, and outreach is our motto, so call anytime. We try to have live person there for you to speak with about your values. We want to be an information repository for you. So I'll get started with the value increases, but I will say Senator Lang, George Lang, is supposed to be coming here in a little bit, and he's also going to say some words, because there was some legislation that passed today in the House for property tax relief, so he's going to be speaking to you as well towards the end of our presentation. He was just getting back from Columbus. So anyway, okay, well, I'll get started. Yes, Joe?
Let people know there's seats upstairs.
Oh, okay, seats upstairs. If anyone would like to sit down instead of standing in the back, there's several available seats for you. And I wanted to recognize Judy Boyko. She's the county administrator. She came here for moral support. Thank you, Judy, for being here. And of course, Joe Mulligan, my good friend, Mike Scorty, a lot of friendly faces. The Burks, glad you could be here too. I'm sorry? Oh, I thought you said something. Okay. Anyway, well, as you have been reading in the newspaper or online, in the state of Ohio, every 6 years, properties must be revalued. So 2020 for Butler County was a reappraisal year. 3 years later is a triennial update. So when we're doing a reappraisal in 2020, we're looking at every property individually. 3 years later is a triennial update, and this is every county in Ohio goes through the same 6-year process, different cycles. Ours is 2020, 2023, 2026, and on and on. We have a reappraisal year. 3 years later, we have a triennial update. So 3 years ago, I'm just going to go back a little bit, the tax commissioner had Butler County at a 20% countywide increase. And when they do their methodology, they're looking at the final year of sales data for that particular county. So For 2020's reappraisal year, the tax commissioner of the state of Ohio was looking at the sales in Butler County and every county that was in the reappraisal process or triennial update process. And they were saying, based on 2019 sales, you must increase Butler County's values by 20% countywide. And as I just told you, I was treasurer at the time. There was another auditor there. And the auditor at the time was Roger Reynolds, and he fought that. He said, we have our own in-house appraisers, as we still do. Mike Gilday is one of them. We have our own in-house appraisers, and we say that Butler County's increases are only 14 to 17% countywide. We don't agree with you. But the tax commissioner is the final authority. So Roger Reynolds fought the tax commissioner. It's the first time it's ever been done. In fact, Butler County has been a real thorn in the tax commissioner's side for many years, and that's continuing. Butler County and our lawmakers and the former auditor and myself and our county commissioners have been leading the charge against the tax commissioner because of these huge inflationary increases to our residential properties. So Roger Reynolds fought that. It went to the Board of Tax Appeals, but it took a couple years for the Board of Tax Appeals to rule on whether that was a good argument or not. Roger's argument was our appraisers are basing their increases on this 3 years of data, not this final year, and we also don't agree with the values or the methodology that you're using. Butler County is paying these appraisers these are certified professional appraisers, and what do you know about Butler County? So that's when it all started. And so I kind of jumped in the middle, but as treasurer, Roger had our office, the treasurer's office, bill for 2020 and 2021 taxes at his lower rate because he thought, I'm going to win this case. Well, he didn't. And so in 2022, the decision came down, tax commissioner wins, Butler County, you lost, 20% increase countywide. So just in February of this year, I, as treasurer, had to bill for back taxes to get the county up to that 20% countywide increase. Now, to do that, they used the biggest valued places. Middletown did not get hit, Trenton did not get hit. They used City of Hamilton, Westchester Township, Fairfield Township, and the City of Fairfield. They say you take those 4 districts and you sock it to them with these 2023 tax bills. And so they paid the back taxes to go from 14 to 17% that Roger had me bill as treasurer, to get it to the 20%. So then, people in those districts aren't happy because they're having to pay back taxes. 40% of the county, basically, were paying back taxes for the last couple years. And we got through it. They understood. The treasurer's office did a lot of communication. Well, then I take office on February 13th, and all of a sudden in March or April, we get told that this time it's going to be 42%. And so our commissioner, Don Dixon, had a major fit. And so it all started again. All the arguments back and forth with the tax commissioner, where we're saying internally, we're looking at 3 years of sales data. They're looking at just that final year. We're looking at 2020, 2021, and 2022 sales data, all the sales that had happened in all your neighborhoods. And they said, no, we're only going to use 2022. So Don Dixon, our commissioner, convened a summit with our lawmakers, with my team, and we said, you go to Columbus and you fix this. And the tax commissioner should not be dictating to Butler County and our in-house appraisers who know Butler County and know our neighborhoods. You shouldn't be dictating to us what our values are. So that started the firestorm with our lawmakers, and it's been a battle really since mid-April. We had the summit May 1st, we had another summit June 1st, we had another one in September, and we keep sending our lawmakers back to fight it. And there are other counties that have joined us in the fight, Claremont County, Preble County, Summit County, but there are 88 counties, and when you have counties all on different cycles, there's a lot of counties that weren't dealing with this. So it was more difficult for our lawmakers to get anything accomplished because, like Warren County, didn't see a problem. They aren't in the cycle this year. So you have auditors adverse with lawmakers and just trying to get everyone on the same page has been extremely difficult, but they did have some success today, and Senator Lang will be here to talk about that. But I just wanted to give you kind of the background of what this whole year has been, and actually the last 4 years, because Butler County has been on the front lines of this for years, not fighting with the taxpayer, but disputing the methodology, the sales that are used, and why they overrule us locally, and why don't we control our own values. And we're looking at unelected bureaucrats in Columbus dictating to us, you have to raise your taxes, or your values by 42%. So let me get started with the presentation so I can make sure my team here gets a chance to speak. Okay. So as I told you at the beginning, we have the triennial update versus a reappraisal. This is a triennial update year, 2023. And as I told you, the tax commissioner requires the county auditors to reappraise all real property every 6 years, and a reassessment 3 years later called the triennial update. And also we have handouts. David Brown has handouts somewhere if you would like to take one home with you explaining the process. So the purpose of the reappraisal is to equalize the values of each property as it compares to similar ones. And the triennial update is to move property values closer to the market value based on more recent sales. Okay, and as I said, we conducted a reappraisal in 2020, and this year, 2023, is our triennial update. It's where I explained the previous auditor was forced to raise everything countywide residential values by 20% in 2020, and then in 2023 we were told 42%. This is the letter that we had gotten in April saying no recommendations for agricultural or commercial or industrial due to insufficient data. Well, because we have our own in-house appraisers, we were able to apply value increases to those other categories, which brought the residential property value increases down. So they ended up around 13 to 18%, and Mike Gilday will be speaking on that topic. Okay, that is a picture of the first summit we had, May 1st, because we totally recognize that a lot of people are being priced out of their homes. Like their taxes they're paying are reaching mortgage level prices. And we understand that our lawmakers make the laws. The auditor has nothing to do with the laws. We are an agent of the state. We administer based on state law. But our lawmakers have been bringing income taxes down, which we like, and our lawmakers have brought our sales tax in Butler County is the lowest in the state. But we also recognize that our property tax burden has become so strenuous, especially for people on fixed incomes. And we know this because we field the calls. And we have ladies in Middletown literally crying on the phone, 2 in one day recently. So we are getting the calls. We are telling our lawmakers that the property tax burden has become too high for especially people on fixed incomes and people of lower means, and that we need to have a fix. And that's what our summit was about. Commissioner Dixon convened that summit with our lawmakers, and that's when they marched to Columbus and said, we've got to take care of this. And it did take us 3 times with the tax commissioner to get them to approve our abstract. We send up our values for all the different neighborhoods, and they kept sending it back saying, no, 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 okay, this one's okay, that one's not okay. But it took us 3 tries to get them to approve our abstract. And here's what you've probably seen in the paper is all the increases. The highest, Monroe, Middletown, and Fairfield at 40% residential value increase or more. There were some low, like Sharonville was a little lower at 25, but that's just a sliver of Butler County. And then it's based on the median, and Mike Gilday, our certified appraiser, will talk about, oh, hi, George. I was telling him that you're going to speak later. Senator Lang, he's going to speak towards the end of our presentation. Okay, and as I mentioned, commercial and industrial, the tax commissioner had said we didn't have to raise those at all, but because we have in-house appraisers and wanted to lessen the impact on residential, we did put them to 13 to 19%. And then, as you know, other counties are being drastically hit. I feel like Butler County is one of the hardest hit because of our growth. But you can see Montgomery was told originally 34%. Preble 27, Claremont was told 43%. Hamilton County was 33%. And of course, Butler was at 42%, but we eventually got them down to 37%. Okay, I think this is your time. Okay. Mike Gilday, our senior commercial appraiser, is going to come and talk to you about the work they do in the auditor's office. And as I said, we will have questions and answers after we're done here.
Thank you, Nancy. Good evening. As Nancy said, my name is Mike Gilday. I'm the senior commercial appraiser with the Butler County Auditor's Office. Been in the real estate appraisal business for 32 years. I'm a state certified general appraiser with the state and also designated member of the Appraisal Institute. And I would like to apologize if I slur some words tonight. I was not at the Swire Inn. I was in Oxford all day looking at student housing properties. And if anyone's been to Oxford when school's in, there's a lot of students walking around. You got to be really careful. So what's going on? So we have about 190,000 parcels in the county. We have 7 appraisers. That's about 27,000 parcels each appraiser has to look at. And we can't do it individually. We can't go by and look at every single property in the county. So we have what's called a computer-assisted mass appraisal system. We input data into the system, and a computer generates a value for that particular parcel in the county. So as we go through, we use a statistical analysis, and we review sales data that have occurred, and we run statistics on each neighborhood, and it's gonna generate a value for that particular parcel, and that's basically the crux of what we do. So if you look at, I'll tell you what's going on in the market. So we saw this market coming at us in 2019 like a freight train in the middle of the night. If you ever seen a freight train coming in the middle of the night, it comes pretty fast. The market's out of balance. So what we're seeing here, so you can see in 2017, we had a total value of $21.7 billion. In 2023, it jumped to $35.6 billion. It's a 75% increase in our values. And here's why. So if you look in about 2012, our median sale price in Butler County was $130,000. As the market's moving along, in 2023, the median sale price in Butler County is $301,000. As you can see, at the peak of the Great Recession in 2007, our median sale prices jumped to about $165,000. I'm sorry. And is that better? Sorry. In 2007, our sale prices peaked about $165,000. 2008, the Great Recession hits. Our values bottom out at $130,000. You can see the time it took to sell a home during the Great Recession was about 80 days. That's a long time. It was a buyer's market. The market bottomed out and people all around this county were buying homes at very low prices. So as the market shifts, the sale prices start climbing. As you can see, the days on market are dropping, and currently days on market sit about 3. We have a seller's market, a huge seller's market, and people wonder why. Why is the market like this? Here's another chart I wanted to show, and I provided this to Nancy and Roger back probably 2020. I started this. You can see where our values and sale prices are peaking. Look at the household incomes in Butler County. They've remained relatively flat. So there were some concerns in our market that our market was running up, but incomes were staying flat, and that was going to cause a problem for folks in Butler County. So why? Why is the market doing what it's doing? So in 2007 to 2013, when the market had crashed, home building stopped virtually stopped throughout the United States, regionally and locally. So they weren't building new homes in the U.S., in Ohio, or in Butler County. It came to a halt. So 2020, we have historic federal stimuluses to stimulate a market that needed to recover due to COVID. 2020, we have historically low interest rates. I think the interest rate in 2020 bottomed out at, I want to say, 2.65%. So that's stimulating housing growth. That's stimulating demand for housing that we don't have. There's a shortage of homes, and people are overstimulated to buy them. 2020 through present, COVID spurred telecommuting. So what's happening with telecommuting? We have folks from New York, California, that are moving to Ohio that want to buy our real estate. They don't have to work in New York anymore. They don't have to work in California. They can work in Ohio and do their jobs outside of, so it's telecommuting. It's an incredible demand for our real estate. The millennials. The millennials are the largest adult population block in the United States, greater than the baby boomers. And they're tired of paying rent at $2,000 a month or more. So they want homes. So think about it. We got a huge supply shortage. We have huge demand. And as you saw, our real estate prices are at all-time highs. So think about what the DTE is doing in our appraisal process. So they're looking at sales over a 3-year period from our value dates 2023. They look at sales from 2022, 2021, and 2020. The DTE is focusing on sales that occurred closest to our value date, which is January 1st, 2023, when sales are at peak values or peak prices. And that's why the DTE had recommended the large value increases per district, 37% overall for Butler County, and that's based on sales that occurred in 2022. Same for Middletown. I think Middletown was at 40%, and that's based on sales from 2022. In 2020, Nancy was talking, we took an appeal to the Board of Tax Appeals when we appealed the DTE's mandated decision, and we wanted to use sales from 2019, 2018, and 2017 that had a lower average over that 3-year span to kind of smooth out what's happening in the market. And we tried to do the same thing in 2023. I think Senator Lang will talk to what they're doing at the State House to kind of correct some of those issues. So I had a gentleman in the Vietnam hat, and he wanted to know why we're raising values so strong in Middletown. And I think I've sort of explained it, but I think this chart does a very good job of it too. The green line on the bottom is the Middletown market. It's a chart provided by Zillow. Zillow uses MLS data, they use our own data, and they put it into an algorithm and they generate value trends for our area. You can see in 2020, the sale price per Zillow for Middletown was $122,000, the median sale price. In 2023, present day, it's $177,000. That's a 45% increase. Again, the DTE wants us to focus on sales that occurred most recent to our value date, which was January 1st, 2023. A little bit about CAUV. I'm not the CAUV expert, but there will be a summit for the CAUV. Nancy, that's November 9th. It's going to be at the Board of Elections building on Princeton Road.
Tell them what CAUV means.
CAUV is Current Agricultural Use Valuation Program. There has been a pretty sizable increase in the values for the CAUV. That's basically what they do in CAUV is they analyze crop prices, crop expenses, they get a net income, and they capitalize that net income to come up with a value per each soil. But that'll be discussed more in detail by Berkeley Rose, our CAUV administrator, on November 9th. Thank you.
Thank you. So, is that yours?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, and just so you know, if you have questions for Mike, he's going to stay here because he will be answering probably a lot of your questions. But when we talk about your tax bills, because people are mostly upset about their tax bills, but there's three components to your tax bill. You have the values, and you have the rates, and you have state credits. So, let me get, wrong way. So in 2009, there was a huge state budget gap. And you may remember Governor Kasich closed the budget gap by taking from local government funds. So a lot of the credits that people used to get on their tax bills were basically taken away. The state couldn't afford to pay for people's property taxes anymore. So what that meant was we had more levies because we weren't getting the state funds anymore. So we have library levies, Metro Parks levies. We've had 80 levies on the ballot in the last 15 years. So when the auditors are against messing with our values, it's because the county auditors across the state are saying, our values are what they are, we have a tax problem. And I do have real estate director Mike Stein. He is the person in the auditor's office who does all the calculations for property taxes. We do have 2 levies on the ballot this November. I'm sorry. There were more. There were some schools that pulled their funding because of these property value increases, which are going to largely benefit school districts. They pulled their levies from the ballot. But I'm going to bring Mike Stein up here now. If you want to know who's calculating your tax bills, that would be Mike Stein. But he's actually a really nice person.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Stein. I'm the real estate director for Butler County Auditor's Office. I've been in the auditor's office since 2010, so been there for a little while. Basically, in our office, we've been fielding a lot of calls, as you might all imagine. One of the major questions that are being asked is, how much is my taxes going to be based on these valuation increases? So what I thought we would go over a little bit tonight is some of the things that drive the real estate taxes and how they're calculated. So by looking at the different scenarios that, as Nancy had said, it's the other side of the equation. We have the value increase, but then we also have the tax side. So I thought we would talk a little bit about that. So basically, there's a couple of different things that really drive a tax increase. One of those is the inside non-voted millage. A long time ago, the state of Ohio designated to every taxing district in Butler County 10 mills of inside millage. So basically, that's 10 mills. Millage is 1/1000th of a dollar times calculation. So, yeah. So basically, what you do is every time you put a levy on, if you're talking about 4 mil levy, that adds 4 mils to the tax rates. So basically, the inside millage is the only millage, aside from a different one that relates to school districts, that increases proportionately with your value. So that 10 mils of value or of tax will increase as your value increases. So the entities that have that inside millage will stand to gain more every time there's an increase in valuation. So that millage is not subject to any type of reduction factors. The voted levies and things that Nancy was talking about, those are subject to House Bill 920, which allows when values go up, those levies go down in value, so it doesn't overcollect what was authorized by the taxpayers to collect. So once that value is set, it will collect that amount of tax for the remainder of that levy time frame. The 10 mills, as I mentioned, is divided between the various entities within your taxing district. So Butler County has a portion. The schools have a portion, the city has a portion. So that 10 mills is divided between those 3 entities. So each entity in those entities in each of those taxing districts all receive that 10 mills of increase. As I mentioned, the revenues rise and fall proportionately with how that tax is levied. So that 10 mills will go up and down. The second thing that drives real estate taxes, and is more of an issue here in Middletown, is what's called the 20 mil floor. I don't know how many people have heard, you've probably seen it everywhere, discussing the 20 mil floor and how that impacts. So basically the school districts are allowed 20 mils of tax. So that 20 mils is collected every year whenever there's a revaluation cycle. That 20 mils is rate times value. Where that becomes important is if that levies and the levies that make up that 20 mils is at the 20 mil floor, it's rate times value. In the case of Middletown City Schools, that they're at the 20 mil floor. So it's dollar for dollar increase on that 20 mils of valuation. Now there are some offsets that will happen in their tax rates where we will adjust other type of levies that they have to offset some of that increase, but basically that 20 mils will collect dollar for dollar on that increase. Yes. 0.01%. So you have to divide it by 1,000. So if you had your valuation and you took it times 1 mil, so say you had $100,000 assessed valuation or appraised valuation, your assessed value is 35% of that. So 35,000 times $1, 1 mil divided by 1,000 to come up with that amount of tax. So, yeah.
What entities are included in the inside millage? You said there are various taxing entities. What are those entities?
For Middletown specifically, Butler County, Middletown City, and Middletown City Schools. Yeah, they make up all 10 mills. Yeah. So basically what this shows, so in a normal tax situation where the 20 mil is not in effect, where there's not the 20 mil floor, as values increase, you'll see the tax rates because of House Bill 920 decreasing. So in a typical situation, as values increase, the rates will drop so that it doesn't collect more than what was certified during the levy. Where it changes at the 20 mil floor is when the value increases at that rate and the school district is at the 20 mil floor, your tax rate's going to increase as well. So that's why you're seeing larger than average increases in Middletown. There's 2 school districts in Butler County that are above the 20 mil floor, and those are Lakota and Fairfield. So Lakota and Fairfield has that inside millage, and their inside millage basically makes up 20% of the total charge. So when you're hearing these increases of 40%, even though the school district's at the 20 mil floor, you won't see a 40% increase because of the other levies that are within the taxing district that will decrease. So you will not have a 40% increase. In Middletown, we estimate that the increase would be about 20 to 30% in taxes. So if you take those levies that decrease, you take the adjustments that are being made to some of those levies, that increase in the 20 mil floor will be offset by the other adjustments that we'll make to those other levies as we move forward. Right now, we do not have tax rate information, so we have to submit our final abstract by the end of October. We have to wait until things like the November election are finished to figure out what kind of tax rate adjustments need to be done then. And then once all that's done, we'll submit a tax rate file to the state. They'll send us back revised tax rates that we can use to calculate taxes, which will happen more towards the end of the year. So just know that. Now, in a district like Lakota and Fairfield, where you don't have the 20 mil floor, you would estimate about a 10 to 14% increase in your overall taxes instead of the 20 to 30% that would come because of being at the 20 mil floor. So the inside millage, in addition to the 20 mil floor, are the things that are really driving your tax bill up. So those are things to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as everything rises, you know, with the increased cost of the building and so on, obviously valuation's going way up. What's the odds of it being adjusted in the other direction if those come back down?
think that's a value.
Finish.
Yeah.
Can we do that with Q&A? Yeah. We'll finish this, we're almost done, and then Senator Lang will say a few words, and then we'll do Q&A.
Okay.
And that'll be our first question.
All right, thank you.
Maybe I missed it, but can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Why does Middletown have a 20% floor?
Why does Middletown have a 20 mil floor? 20 mil floor was enacted, gosh, I don't, 70 something, 76, where it guaranteed that school districts could not go below that 20 mils of tax for operating purposes.
And it was voted on in the 70s?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been around a long time.
Okay.
What's that? Somebody else have a question? No, okay. So basically, that's the message we wanted to get across tonight as far as taxes. You're not gonna see a direct correlation or a direct increase based on the 40% in value is not gonna be a 40% increase in taxes. There is gonna be an offset to that. Right now, we don't know how much that's going to be, but there will be a definite offset to that. So be happy to take more questions later. Okay. That's all yours.
Okay, do you have the clicker?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so a lot of people call in asking where do your property taxes go? And as I say, there's kind of a rough rule of thumb. 2/3 of your tax bill goes to your school district, wherever you live. And then the other 1/3 roughly goes to your local governments or to social service agencies. So this is countywide, but it could be different depending on your city or your neighborhood, what levies you are paying. But you can see on your tax bill every year when you get that at the first of the year where your taxes go. Now, as you know, and I discussed this one at the very beginning, the auditor's office has been trying to bring down these values in any way possible. The state can't let any auditor just go rogue and keep everybody's values suppressed arbitrarily. So there are rules that auditors have to follow, but for years we have been trying to at least have the DTE, or the state tax commissioner, who is appointed by the governor, listen to us because we are on the ground, we see the values, we have certified appraisers. I don't know that they have certified appraisers. So we have been taking steps along the way. We had asked, when we didn't think legislation would be forthcoming, which Senator Lang will discuss, we had asked all school districts and townships in the county to roll back some millage, give some back. Don't take everything you're getting. That kind of went over like a lead balloon. I got Fairfield Township and 7 Mile and maybe Liberty Township, but no school districts were willing. School districts have infinite need. They're not ever going to turn anything back that they can get. So anytime there is lawmaking discussed about values or property taxes, they will be the first ones screaming, no, no, no. Isn't that right, George? So this is part of, that's the paper from when we had this meeting with all the districts, asking them to roll back some millage that didn't go too far. And so legislative action is fluid. As I said, Butler County has been the leader pressing for change. We have House Bill 187 and Senate Bill 153, which is continuing through the legislative process. And I think we have a working group of auditors that have been trying to supply, albeit too late, changes that we felt would more attack the tax side of the property tax bill instead of the value side. But I think right now would be a good time for Senator Lang to come up and just briefly discuss. We want to get to your questions, of course, but to discuss what happened today, or just this whole past year. Our lawmakers have been working tirelessly on behalf of you to try to mitigate this tax burden. So, you don't really need that, do you?
I don't need that.
Okay.
Hey, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and this is so important that you guys are here. By the way, you all just got a great explanation from Mike about why property values are so high. If you're not looking to sell your property next year, or if you are on a fixed income and you wanted to retire and stay in your house until you leave this earth, what they said is accurate and it makes sense, but it doesn't matter to the average Ohio citizen. Now, if you're a corporation and you've come in and you've bought these properties and you paid way over market value so you could turn them into Airbnbs, which is going on. I mean, there's a lot of short-term artificial thing driving the rates up. The valuations are real, but it doesn't matter to us. It hurts us. It hurts those of us that have been here a long time, that have invested, that have put our hearts and our souls in this community. And I'm glad that the other Mike gave you all a great explanation about millage and how we define that. How many of you can go out tomorrow and explain it to your neighbor? Well, we got one back there. Well, you come and explain it to me after the meeting. It is so confusing and so complicated and so convoluted. And if you are a farmer, it is worse. It is more complicated. So at the State House, we discovered what happened thanks to our auditor and our county commission. We didn't realize taxes were going up that way. The county said, what is going on? And they called a summit and they educated us about what we were doing in the State House. By the way, your auditor is a warrior on behalf of the taxpayers, and Roger Reynolds before her. I'm going to tell you, I am fighting the Auditors Association right now. The head of the Auditors Association was in my office last week, and I wasn't proud, but I don't think I've ever used so much profanity on one person at one sit-down meeting, and I'm very disappointed. Our auditor and about a third of the auditors in Ohio are fighting with us. Could that be a coincidence that about a third of the counties are the ones being impacted right now? My guess is those auditors that did not stand with our auditor as a warrior, they're not being affected right now. I know the leader is from Warren County, and Warren County is going to get hit hard next year. And he's the leader of the Auditors Association, and they're fighting our fixes hard. So here's what we find out. Thanks to the summit called by Commissioner Dixon and by Nancy Nix, our prosecutor, Mike Moser, came up with an easy solution. Currently, in the law, when it comes to valuations and the triennial reviews that the tax commissioner has to approve, not our county auditor. I'm looking to change that to give the power here locally, but our tax commissioner has to approve. They have two options. One, they can go back 1 year and take a look at 1 year, or they can go back 3 years and do the average. The 1 year, the initial forecast was about a 42% increase for Butler County. For 3 years, it would have come out to about a 24% valuation increase, which would have increased all of our taxes, depending where you live. I'm going to guess 10% roughly. Don't hold me to that number. Where you live could have a big difference. So we met with the tax commissioner, and you guys would have been so proud of Thomas Hall and Rodney Creech, who represent Butler County. It was myself, another senator, and 3 state reps, including 2 from Butler County. And I have never met such arrogance. You hear about the swamp in Washington, D.C. We literally asked them the question to confirm what our prosecutor told us. Could you have gone back 3 years and done that average? Yes, we had that choice. The legislature gave us that ability. Why did you only go back 1 year? Because that is the power we have. They chose to take the most punitive action against you that they could. This was the Department of Taxation. So they literally told us, and Rodney Creech has the director in the headlock pounding her head on the table, not literally, figuratively. And they literally told us, we don't answer to you. And guess what? They're right. We don't, well, they answer to once they're set up, they don't answer to the state legislators. We're going to change that. We are going to hold them accountable. And if we are unsuccessful at holding them accountable, if they're right, because they wanted it not to be politicized. I kind of understand the concept. Even though we might not be able to control them, we do control their budgets. And we're going to put some plans in place. I've got some bills being drafted right now that says if you go against the wishes of the legislature, now it has to be a majority of the legislature, you will see your budgets be cut. Is it going to be a 1% a month? I'd rather it be 1% a day until they comply. But you know, we can We can affect them financially. Right now, they're right when they say they don't answer to us. We're hoping to fix that. So we came up with a fix that we put into the budget that had to be voted on before July 1st. The fix simply said this: the tax commissioner shall use a 3-year average. They shall do that. We got it voted out of the Senate. It went over to the House for concurrence, and the County Auditors Association, not your auditor, but the County Auditors Association, called the House. Our Speaker of the House was a former auditor, so they had his attention, but they called out enough House members, put enough confusion out there that this thing got pulled out of the budget. It was pulled out of the budget. So I sat down with the auditors. I was not happy with them. I sat down with them, and they said there's probably a better way forward. And I said, I believe you. Personally, I would like to see it. No property tax can go higher than the cap of inflation with the factor for population growth. So if your community's, if your community's growing quicker, I get it. But for communities that are flat or that are shrinking, those people won't see anything higher than inflation. Personally, that's where I want. So the auditor said, there's got to be a better plan. I said, great. Right now, in order for us to come up with a better plan, it's going to take a 1 to 2 year study for us to analyze all these plans. And Anthony has some other plans besides that I think make sense for the taxpayers. But it's not a quick, easy fix. I said, all we are doing is a Band-Aid to stop the bleeding, and then let's get together and come up with the final plan. So here's what we have done since then. We created a study commission, of which I am on that study commission, that we're going to study this and we're going to recommend a plan within 2 years to solve this problem. In the short term, House Bill 187 and Senate Bill 153 did the exact same thing that the budget language did. It stops the bleeding. It's not a fix, because here's why. In order to get the votes, we put a 3-year sunset on it. So if we don't solve the problem in 3 years, if we don't come up with a better plan forward, it's going to revert back to this. So the pressure is on us, and I am on the committee that is going to be putting doing this study and putting a plan together. We have the votes in the Senate to get these out like this. Right now, the Senate is ready. Our House did not have the votes until, and the reason I am late, I apologize. The vote was late this afternoon, and I'm proud to tell you, 58 yes votes. So it passed the House of Representatives today, and what passed was House Bill 187. So it'll come to the Senate next week. I've already met with the Senate President. Our next session date is November 15th. We are going to fast track Senate Bill 187. So it'll be done on November 15th. Unfortunately, in the House, there were 6 people that were not there today that would have supported this, but there was no session called until the last minute. They had already had plans, so they couldn't get what is an emergency clause put on there. I'll talk more about that in a second. So this bill that's coming to us without the emergency clause, because it takes 66 votes for an emergency clause, and they only had 58. We will get it voted out of the Senate on November 15th. Now, what an emergency clause does is it takes effect virtually immediately upon the governor signing the bill. Without the emergency clause, it doesn't take effect for 90 days. So here's why that is a major problem for you. And this is all the auditor's fault, the Auditors Association, because we have this fix in the budget. And they're the ones that are going to be complaining the most about this because definitely, and I talked to Bridget Kelly, who's down in Hamilton County. They have 350,000 residential properties. Evaluations are all done. And she literally said, once this law goes into effect, it's going to be too late for us to pull the bills back and send out the correct bills. What do we do? So here's the tweak we're going to do. And at the end of the year, you're going to like it a lot, but the first 6 months, you're not going to like it at all on that first payment. we are going to tack an amendment on that says this: the auditors do not have to go through the Herculean task because the bills will already be out by the time this takes effect. You would have already received them, they would have already been due. So for the second bill of next year, you get two bills. There will be in the business world, we call it a true up. It'd actually be a true down. So if your bill should have been $1,000, and if the wrong bill in the first half was $1,020, your bill in the second half would have been $980. So at the end of the year, we've got the solution in place, but unfortunately, short term, there's going to be some unfair pain on all the residents, and I hold the auditors responsible. And I can't emphasize, when this bill was in committee, your auditor went up. She took a stand in front of all of the legislature. She fought valiantly for this change. Her association outvoted her 3-1 against it, 34-13 roughly, almost 3-1. But not your association. Now, I love Nancy, and I got to tell you, twice a year I cuss her. When I write that check, I do cuss her. But we are lucky to have her. We are blessed to have her. And the other person I really want to talk about is a guy whose name is on that bill, Thomas Hall. He carried this bill with Adam Byrd from Claremont County. Thomas literally texted me this morning at 7:30. We only have 28 votes. We have a lot of members not here, and we spent all day talking to members one-on-one, individually, getting that number to 58. And the reason there was a no, people were saying no, the auditors were still calling them, not our auditor, not a third of the auditors in the state, which back what we're doing, but they were still calling them saying, hey, this is going to cause problems. And you know, as you heard Mike explain all of the details and intricacies, you know, it's confusing. And of all of the 132 legislators, probably only 10 truly understand what Mike explained to you guys. And I'm embarrassed to tell you I'm not one of them. I kind of get it, but I don't have the knowledge that these three have, and nor do hardly many legislators. So when they're called, when their school districts are calling them, by the way, I got to share this with you. I'm not going to share the representative's name or the school district. A representative called me today and said, my school district is pissed. I said, why? He said, they just completed their negotiations with the union based on the anticipated windfall. I said, you mean they negotiated in good faith on something that wasn't real yet? He said, yes. I'll tell you, Vivek Ramaswamy spoke not too long ago, and I heard him say this: your school board members are more important than who's president. They're more important than your federal senator, your federal congressman. They're more important than your state rep, your state senator. Joe Mulligan, they're even more important than who our mayor is. They have a bigger impact on your pocketbook in a shorter period of time, and they have a bigger impact on the future of America. And I think he was right. And to have a school board that negotiated on something that was not even real yet is unfathomable. So I'm going to tell you, with a 95% level of confidence, we will get this voted out of the Senate at our next session, which is scheduled for November 15th. I have the same level of confidence that the governor's going to sign it. I've not talked to the governor, but the governor has been generally nothing but supportive of the taxpayer. So I have a very high confidence rate that we'll have a fix. Little painful in the first 6 months, but at the end of the year, it'll all be back to where it should have been. So thank you, guys. Nancy?
Yeah. Oh,
Sorry, wait till you get old, you look deaf. Yeah, that is a great question. For those of you that didn't hear it, who do the auditors answer to? You know who our auditor in Butler County answers to? Oh, that's not the auditors. That is the Department of Taxation. They don't answer to the legislature. When they were when they were set up, and if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. They were set up to be apolitical. I would assume that they would always be set up to look out on behalf of the taxpayer. Boy, was I wrong. You hear about the swamp in Washington. It's alive and well in Columbus. And I'm embarrassed that it's taken me 6 years of being up in Columbus now to fully see it for how bad it is. So it makes sense that it was set up that they don't answer to us. So we can't put political. It's bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats. They answer to themselves. That's how this was set up, and that's what's got to change.
How are those positions appointed?
I'm sorry?
Does the governor appoint those positions?
A governor-appointed position, that is correct.
For how long?
What is the tenure? What is the tenure of those commissions?
I'm not sure. I'll get back and let you know. Yeah. Yeah?
That every 6 years, you come up with these values, right?
Yes, we have a reappraisal, and 3 years later is a triennial update.
Project now, going in 6 years, what those numbers will look like?
Well, that would be a Mike Gilday question, but let's just finish this real quick, and then we'll open it up to the questions.
I would like to ask a question specifically to George.
Oh. Are you staying, George? Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry.
So I have a question about the greater picture of why this truly has created the shortages. During the Great Recession, Vanguard, BlackRock, purchasing all of these when people were losing their homes, and it's created the reason why we are actually short. I want to know, why aren't they paying the excessive amount that everyone else is? My mom's has gone up 55%. So I don't think that we're looking at the big picture here. It's not gonna be a bleed.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a slaughter. And this will create things that nobody is gonna be able to cope with in a big way. So why aren't we making these investors responsible for what they've created? Because we're dealing with single-family people that can't afford it, and it's just gonna continue. And if we have these huge increases also on the farms, now we are not gonna have people in their homes and feeding them. So this is a much greater picture. And as a senator, I would like to hear, why isn't anyone talking about that? The millage?
Yeah. So the way the tax system,
Dollar for dollar, we're dealing with the public perverted schools sucking down the money, brainwashing our children in ways that are unacceptable.
your school board election, I'll say it again, is more important than who is the president of these United States of America because of what you just said. So to answer your question, which is why we have to come up with a better solution, as I said, I like the solution of no greater than inflation or combined with population growth, or somebody had the great idea, turn it over to the local auditors. Those counties that have an auditor like us that are looking out for the taxpayers will keep that number suppressed. Those that are looking out for the governments they represent will allow that to grow. So everything you said is exactly right, which is why inflation is the answer to me, because our prices have been artificially raised because of the Vanguards, because of the BlackRocks, because of everything you just said. And technically, they pay the higher rate as well. They just don't care because they're monetizing it. Yeah. So we're the ones left holding the bill at the end of the day.
And their goal is to own 60% by 2030. So the way that they're going to be able to do that are these increases and take advantage of it.
Yep.
And so when does it become a capitalist society versus a communist society?
Yep. What you just said is exactly why we have set this study commission up. And let's see if Nancy will hold this again in about 2 years from now. And I will come back and give you guys a full report on what this study commission has done. Yeah. So let me tell you what we're doing about that. Here's what we're doing about that. We're one of the first states in America to put universal vouchers in. So what that says is about $8,000 for every high school kid. The money follows the kid. So parents that are in underperforming schools or schools that are focusing on things like critical race theory or woke ideology that many parents may be against, parents that could not afford it otherwise now have the option to take their kids and send them to somewhere else. I don't know how else to get to eradicate the problem, because if you go talk to your local school board, they're going to tell you it's not being taught in the school. And it's not part of the official curriculum, but I know it's being taught in every public school in the state.
Are we talking about taxes here?
Yeah, let's
What-
go back
we-
to our-
we got-
Yep, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
sit down.
Good call.
Okay.
I'm getting tired of listening to it.
Yes, hey, Mike Gilding. I think, well, next steps, there's not much left of the presentation here. We just got next steps. I'll leave that on there and where we're going to be. So I'll leave this up, but the gentleman here had a question and then we'll come to you, okay? But because this is being recorded, we would like for you to come up here if you do have a question so that the people that are watching at home can hear the question that is being asked. So do you mind coming up here? Oh, he wants to know what the future value increases.
Let me back up, and I want to address her concern about the real estate market. And I'm going to give you a war story. So I was in private practice appraisal in 2006 and 7 when the market was doing actually pretty good. And I used to appraise subdivisions. So they would cut dirt, and I'd go out and appraise a subdivision. You have to estimate how long it would take them to sell the lots in the subdivision. So what happens is you cut a subdivision of 100 lots, a builder gets into an agreement with a developer, and it's called a lot takedown agreement. So they would agree to buy so many lots from that developer. So as time marched forward and we're just absorption rates, they started slowing in 2005 and 2006, 2007. Well, in 2008, the Lehman Brothers crashed. The market absolutely fell to the bottom. Home construction stopped in the United States, in the region and locally. So you got a period from about 2007 to 2013, they're not building homes, they're not building new homes. So we have a huge supply shortage. The supply is gone, right? So that goes to about 2013, the market starts taking off and supply can't catch up. By all accounts right now, we're 5 million units short of housing in the United States. It's supply and demand. If you go to the grocery store and there's only one packet of eggs and you got 30 people wanting to buy the eggs are going to go higher because of the shortage. The supply and demand, that's exactly what's happening in our real estate market. Also, there are 82 million single-family housing units in the United States. About 52 million of them are on mortgages less than 6%. I got a mortgage of 2.75%. My mortgage payment is $800 a month. I'm not going anywhere. Anyone in this room who has a mortgage below 7% is probably not going to sell their homes. So you've taken a huge block of houses off the market. That's what's driving this. And you're right, there are the Jeff Bezoses of the world, Warren Buffett, American Homes for Rent. They're buying homes. They're buying them as quickly as they can because they can afford to buy them. That's what's going on. And there's a huge supply shortage that's causing the run up in our sale prices and values. That's simply what's going on.
Here, let's let this man, here, come here. Do you want to ask your question?
I'm not sure I can beat that woman.
Okay, what was your question?
Life is real simple.
Okay,
Let's say I've got a annual tax bill of $3,000. According to what I've heard here, it's gonna go to $4,000.
are you in Middletown?
I am.
It could go anywhere from 20 to 30% over what you're paying now. So 3,000 now, that would be $600 more if it was at 20%. $900 more if it's at 30%.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Okay. Yes. I'm sorry. What, you want to talk about the commercial market real quick? Sure. And just stay up here. Why don't?
Got one question real quick.
Well, we're answering somebody else's question right now.
You, right? Over the last 3 years, we went to 1 year. Why are we paying if they decide not you or you? Why are we paying?
Well,
3 years wages for you fellas, and I ain't got a problem with that. If you
we still have to equitably appraise every property in the county. We have 160,000 parcels. We still have to be equitably between them. They just give you a countywide increase, and it's all different. You could see from that chart, it's different throughout the county, and it's different house to house to house on every street.
all right, but the state said no.
They say they give us a big number to meet, but by neighborhood and by house, it's not the same.
You guys gave, look, we need 3 years to make it work. This 3-year gap, right? And the state said what to you?
Well, they just said you have to meet this 20.
Why are we paying these fellas?
Technically,
What are we paying for?
yeah, technically, we don't have that 3-year fix until November 15th.
I understand that. Right now is what we're dealing with.
Assuming we are successful, Nancy and the auditors will comply with the lower rate.
That didn't answer my question.
So I can tell you what we're getting paid for. So we are charged by state law to do an appraisal of every parcel in Butler County.
Okay.
All right, so, and that's what we do, by state law, that's what we do. And when we prepare our appraisal, the state Department of Tax Equalization is nothing more than a review appraiser. They're reviewing our work to see where our sale ratios are, to make sure they're in compliance with what they want. So they can mandate, they can look at our rates. They wanted 42%, we wanted 24%. We settled at 30, what's that? So we settled at 37% countywide. So we have to do what we're doing by state law. That's simply why we get paid.
Okay, wait, this gentleman had a question.
They told you no.
Gentlemen, what was your question? He was next, please. What was it again? I'm sorry. Oh, the commercial.
So commercial, I'm not the tax guy, Mike's the tax guy.
No, the
but
commercial valuation.
The commercial valuation. So the state of Ohio, who governs what we do and mandates what we do, recommended a 0% increase on commercial property. Okay, a commercial value increase. I, the commercial appraiser who study the market, know that our apartment market is the strongest market that we've had in decades, and our industrial market follows closely behind. So we made a move on industrial and apartment properties. Your office property right now is getting destroyed. Occupancies and market and offices are up due to telecommuting. You don't need office space. You can operate out of your home now. So we didn't do anything with offices, and mom and pops still coming out of COVID are struggling. So we studied the market and felt industrial and apartments where we needed to move. And that increase in value for industrial and apartments will offset the tax burden on a residential property stock.
Okay. Just stay up here. Well, the gentleman here, what was your question? Yes.
If in 6 months, the market for housing, this arbitrary market tanks to our rate.
You want to talk about 08?
Okay, so that's a hypothetical question. He said if in 6 months, if our market crashes, what are we going to do? It's essentially what he's asking. It's a hypothetical. It's not going to happen. We are so short on supply, our market's not going to crash in 6 months. It's not going to crash in 3 or 4 years. But if it does, it happened in 2008.
Yeah, it did.
Auditor Reynolds came back in 2009 and we lowered values. The auditor has the ability in an off-year move to make value adjustments, and we will do that if that does happen. I don't anticipate that happening.
That's why we're fighting it. That's why we're fighting it. I gotta pay it too.
Ma'am?
I have a question. Is there any effort made, towards the people who are implementing this, the tax commission, to be solicited to break up this tax increase so that families can have a chance to make adjustments with such a drastic, increase on the drastic burden that it's placing on fixed incomes families? Is there any effort to be made?
Not by the tax commissioner, that would be your legislature. Yeah, the tax commissioner is solely focusing on values.
Over the next 3 years, or whenever this evaluation comes around again, you're saying you're waiting 6 months, but in this next 3-year evaluation, to break this increase up so that we're not socked with it in one fell swoop.
Yeah, that would be up to the legislature. The tax commissioner is basically going by the laws and doing things.
Well, then my question
Yeah.
is to you, are there any efforts to make that happen?
Yes. Yep. We have a group, and Thomas Hall's on his way. You're gonna see him. He's coming in shortly, and he's been taking on the same fight in the House, fighting against the governments we represent and fighting for the taxpayers we represent. So far, it's been a Herculean effort. I wish everyone could understand how difficult it was for Thomas to get this out of the House today. It was a Herculean effort. We have the auditors is fighting us. We have many school districts fighting us, and not all legislators stand with taxpayers. So it's a fight.
Yes.
A question, I just did some quick math, 160,000 parcels. If each parcel paid $500 more in taxes, that's $80 million in a year. What improvement, I don't mind spending money if I get something.
Right.
But what improvements am I gonna see?
By and large, the windfall will go to the school districts because of what he was saying.
I mean, there aren't that many schools.
Because of the 20 mil floor that we were talking about, because the schools cannot, 8 of our 10 school districts in Butler County are at the 20 mil floor, meaning as values increase, those rates will stay the same. Fairfield and Lakota, as values increase, rates will drop so they collect the same amount. But by and large, the 8 of the 10 school districts at the 20 mil floor, it's dollar for dollar as those values go up. So the windfall will be going to the schools.
$80 million. How many schools is that?
Well, there's 8 of 10 school. We have 10 school districts.
$10 million per school.
Well, I haven't done the math, but I trust you to know your math.
And if the taxes wouldn't have gone up, those schools would have.
Well, if the taxes, or if we had our housing values more in line with just regular inflation, they would still be getting somewhat of a windfall. The problem is they're getting a way larger windfall than just regular inflation because of the market of a real estate is so exacerbated at this time based on what Mike was talking about.
Big money grab. Looks like an $80 million money.
It does. It does.
Capitalization of money grab, using that as an excuse.
Yes, Roger.
According to the chart,
Here, you want to get closer so people can hear you at home?
a lot of things in the past, but I'm looking at that chart, and I question for this gentleman here
Yeah.
is, and I'm gonna refer to the comment that you made, that this appears to be something that's COVID created.
Absolutely.
Okay, if that being the fact, I'm going to guess that the vast majority of people in Butler County had zero control over that. Is that correct? Yeah. We had no control over
I
that.
think that's a fair statement.
Okay. So, now, if we know that as a fact, then here's my expectations. My expectations are our state officials fix it because the tax commissioner cannot override a law. And that's according to this piece of paper.
Well-
The tax commissioner, they're appointed by the governor, but they cannot override a law. This should have been fixed because this was not something that just happened 4 months ago. We seen this coming, and the state elected officials should have been ahead of this, and they should have nailed this because COVID.
So you're, No, you're absolutely right. We did see this coming in 2019. And the former auditor Reynolds, we fought it in 2019. We challenged the the Department of Tax Equalization at the Board of Tax Appeals, and we got it handed to us. Now, there's more folks. There's Senator Lang, Representative Hall, who's not here. There's going to be a fix at the state level. It takes time to do that.
It takes law. And that's what we should have been working on for the last 2 years, is a law, because the state
I will, just so you know, all the money that you pay in property taxes stays local. So the funding that comes in is not on their radar. They're a reactive body. There are lawmakers, we reach out to them. It wasn't until we heard this 42% in April that they got first notice. And then they are the only ones that have been working on it all year. I mean, in their defense, we had Preble County and Claremont County somewhat, but Butler County's been leading the charge for years. And finally today, they got the House to get 58 votes. So it's not like it hasn't been on their radar. I mean, they're doing all they can.
Well, my final comment is I do appreciate what you guys do. I know you have a lot of pushback, and I know you get it, but I appreciate what you did tonight.
What other questions? Yes. That's correct. There was a big levy passed by the Middletown School District in 2010. And how many mills is that? 17 mills or something? It's a huge levy passed. What is it? 17.42 levy was passed in Middletown in 2010, and that's a huge mover for the tax bills. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry.
What I'd like to know, and this one is directed to Mike, when did you guys start using things like Zillow and stuff like that in order to make your...
So we don't use Zillow to do our reappraisal. We use Zillow to demonstrate what's happening with market trends. That's the only reason it's up there. I think you were referring to this chart here. So that Zillow information and sales data, that follows our own in-house sales data. So what we do, our staff of 7 appraisers, is that we review every sale that takes place in Butler County. We analyze that sale, we determine if it's a valid sale or a non-valid sale, and then we'll put the valid sales in a pool, so to speak, and we'll use those valid sales that we determine from our own conveyance department to be used in our reevaluation of the property. And I'll tell you, they do follow the same trends that you're going to see from the Cincinnati MLS, Realtor.com, Zillow. It's just a graphic that shows what's happening in our market.
Well, my property I bought in 2010, I paid $52,000 for it. Okay, I was automatically taxed on $114,000, even though that wasn't what I bought the property for.
You said in 2010?
Yes.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So we have, there's a couple outlets if you feel your property's overvalued. You can go through an informal review. The county has an informal review every year.
Yeah, I get laughed at.
Every year you can go through the informal review up until our final abstract has to be turned over to the state in the end of October. We field thousands of phone calls every year for people who say, hey, I just bought my home for X and there's some condition problems with it and you have it valued more than what I bought it for. And we'll take care of it. If it's legitimate, we'll take care of it in an informal review. If you miss that, you can go and file a complaint with the County Board of Revision, a 1-page complaint, and to challenge your value. Those complaints will go to each individual appraiser for that particular area. They'll review the complaint. If there's merit to that complaint, the value would be taken care of without a hearing. So we kind of operate our Board of Revision as sort of a more formalized informal review, but you can go that route if you have any concerns about your values. I think there's a sheet in here somewhere.
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, once you explain it.
Yep.
I want to know what you guys know about this. What are you going to do? What are you going to give us back besides raise teachers' wages? I mean, we got to have return on money for it.
Well, the auditor basically values the property and calculates the taxes, but the monies collected would be up to your school board. And do what now?
They won't roll those back.
No.
No one ever looking at a bigger picture of values are more higher, which they needed to be a long time ago. This has been, you can probably blame it on the past auditors or whatever, but it should have gone up because the value's been going up for a long time. And what the houses are selling for and what if the tax rates are there's a huge difference. They're selling way more. But we're not getting a good return on our money anywhere for our schools. 65% is going to schools and they're just renegotiating.
That would be with your school board.
So is there a list of things you're gonna do more? What else are you gonna do?
We collect the taxes and send it to the school board.
You're funding it, that's
Yeah,
the problem.
I mean, I
We did not pass those levies. The voters passed the levies. I never passed the levies. The auditor does not pass the levies. The voters pass the levies. And that's what the rates are. You have value times rate is your tax bill, basically. And any levies that are on there because voters wanted those services. And if you aren't happy with your school board and how they're spending your money, you go speak with your school board. Thanks, Mike. Yes. Well, Representative Thomas Hall has entered the building. Are you worn out? He said he's aged. You said you had aged a few years today. So it has been very difficult for Representative Hall to get this bill passed that will force the tax commissioner to use 3 years instead of 1 year. It's a short-term Band-Aid while the lawmakers go and try to alleviate or mitigate this property tax burden that is on our taxpayers. We know that you have been very stressed about this, trying to get it passed. Do you want to say a few words? Right here.
Number one, thank you guys for showing up tonight. I know this is a really important issue, a really important topic for our district, but for millions of Ohioans who are facing this right now. At 7:30 this morning, 7:32, George, we had 28 votes for our bill today, which you need 50 in the Ohio House to pass something. So we spent the entire day today whipping votes, negotiating with members of our side of the aisle and Democrats. It's a very bipartisan issue. And we finally got to a resolution at 5:45 today, I believe is when we voted on it. So we finally got some type of property tax reform pushed. This in addition to the homestead reforms that we worked on through the budget and our 70/70 plan that just started having hearings in the House Ways and Means Committee to freeze the property tax increases for seniors above a certain age that make under a certain amount. So this is a huge topic, property tax reform in general. We've made a lot of inroads on income tax, but property tax is something I hope we can, hopefully get a lot more people on board with. But I welcome any questions you guys have. I know it's probably not the easiest crowd, but we've done this before, and I enjoy talking about this because we're actually trying to do things to correct this. Yes, sir.
A question about as far as the bill that you're passing with the 70 years old.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. My thought is I'm not 70. I am on a limited income.
Absolutely.
My taxes raised just this year $300 because I hate to say it, I'm divorced. I had to pay her money, so I had to finance the house. So it increased my property. Well, one is it going to increase my property value again since it was just increased this year? But not only that, how does that affect us that aren't 70?
Right.
We can't afford to pay any more taxes.
Absolutely. So with the bill, just like anything else, we start with a starting point. 70 and 70 was kind of where we started with this bill. That's not to say the bill is going to change. We've already had conversation with the committee to try and change either the age threshold, to change the income threshold. So it's not a final product. We've just introduced that initial offering. Grateful to have your input on it as we go through this process. We've heard from Ohioans from all across the state that they don't mind paying taxes. That's not what they're arguing. It's just these steep increases that people are seeing is really struggling to make ends meet. So we're trying to do comprehensive tax reform with a property tax study committee that was created in the budget for the long-term fixes, but we're really trying to focus on what we can do right now because people are facing these tax increases right now. They can't wait 2 or 3 more years.
Well, I'm also going to put this in. I know Ohio is basically a Republican state, correct?
Well,
It's conservative.
to a certain extent, yes, sir.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, yeah.
I've talked to my family that lives in Colorado. We all know that's a liberal state, correct?
To a certain extent.
Yes. Well, I propose we do what Colorado does with their property taxes. If you're 65 years old and you've lived in your house for 10 years, you no longer pay property taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the way they do it.
Yeah, I think that I think there's 18 or 19 states that have something similar to that. That's what we're kind of looking at as a committee right now to figure out what's best for Ohio. I don't know if it's been said, but the state of Ohio is doing very well financially. So it's my opinion that we should start giving this money back to the taxpayers who are hurting the most right now with these steep tax increases. Now, I can tell you, you said it, I didn't say it, Ohio being a Republican state, even today on a property tax reform bill that we were trying to lower people's taxes, we met a lot of opposition within our own caucus of members that are in these 50-50 seats. It is not the easiest job in the world. I wish a lot of you could have been with me today because it was a struggle. The bill failed actually 3 times today, and we finally got enough people to on board to get it done today. So I was texting with Senator Lang and texting with the local media, and she's like, "What happened?" I said, "The bill failed." And then we brought it back, and then it failed because we didn't have the votes. We also had 7 members absent today. I don't understand why 7 members are absent, but 7 members are absent today. It all comes down to the numbers in Columbus. But I was thankful, again, we got this passed to get it to the Senate. As far as other reform efforts, we are open to any idea. We are not saying this is the only idea. The 70-70 plan is a bipartisan bill from Representative Isaacson and I from Cincinnati. So it's not like we're trying to attack this from one angle or another. We actually picked up some bipartisan votes today on tax reform, tax relief. But there was a huge misconception going around because of the 20 mil 4 that a lot of you, I don't know how much you guys got into the 20 mil 4. School districts, there's 330 school districts in Ohio at the 20 mil 4 of 608 school districts. So I got to give them credit. They're really good lobbyists. So they were blowing up our members' phones today, telling them to vote no on the bill because they thought 20 mil 4 was involved. There was none of that in our bill. Tax relief now, we can't wait any longer to provide this tax relief to people.
Well, even a few years ago, it went through the courts, even to the Ohio Supreme Court, that school districts shouldn't be paid through levies. That technically they weren't right, but nobody knew what to do with it. And so here we are, and nobody does anything about it.
Is it on the school funding, the school funding part?
Yes.
So we did pass them in 2021, my first term in the Ohio House, called Fair School Funding, that actually alleviated taking it from where it is or where it was to where it is now to try and figure out a formula for Ohio schools. But before that, it was unconstitutional since 1997, I believe. So I was 2 years old when the last time that it happened.
But I mean, we're still paying on levies.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be. Plus, not only that, when a levy doesn't pass, I live in Madison, we even have a school district income tax. So they get us 2 ways.
Yeah, I live there too. So I saw my tax increases too. Yes, sorry. Yes.
I got an idea for you, and for all of you. How about we lower the state income tax and the local income tax? I pay two local income taxes because I work up in Dayton. You guys get me from there, and you get me here. There's something for you. Lower the state income tax.
So I have actually taken the lead in the Senate. Ohio is leading the nation in lowering income tax. About 8 years ago, we had 5 brackets with the top rate of 10%. Now we're down to 2 brackets, 3.5 and 2.75. The goal is to eliminate the income tax altogether in 4 years. And I can tell you with a high degree of confidence, we're going to get that done. That will not affect the local taxes you pay. That's up to the cities you live in and the cities you work in. But in Ohio, and by the way, as we have lowered taxes, guess what happened to state revenues? They've gone up. Businesses are coming back to Ohio like never before. We are leading the nation in new business growth. So by lowering taxes, we actually have more revenue going into the government, which is why Thomas said the most recent budget we cut was a $3 billion tax cut. The budget we passed this July 30th, largest tax cut in the history of Ohio. And as Thomas said, we know we got to do more. You know, when it comes to property taxes, that's at the local level too. We can affect the law as to how it's calculated, but it's up to you guys to vote for or against levies. That's out of our control at the State House. And one of Ohio's problems is Ohio has more, let this sink in, we have more taxing jurisdictions than any other state in America. Think about that. We're worse than Illinois, New York, New Jersey, California. We're the third highest income taxing jurisdictions, not a dollar amount, but individual jurisdictions. We have the third highest amount of those. And it's because when Ohio, it's in our Constitution about home rule. So all these local governments have created their own fiefdoms, and you know, I always say, don't give us the money, don't vote us levies. We are not responsible. We all have our own pet projects, and hopefully we're electing fiscal conservatives at all levels, but we all know that that's a pipe dream.
Oh, sorry.
Referring to that graphic up there, you've got the poorest community in Middletown down there, in the green. You've got the richest community of Westchester at the top, 45%, 46%. How is that possible?
It's the change.
Why is Middletown is a much less desirable community?
It's something that nobody in this room has control over. The market. People are buying property in Middletown, and that's what's causing the prices go.
I do too. I don't know why they're buying.
So here's what's happening. Like I told you, the millennials, the largest adult population block in the United States, and I think Thomas might be one of them. They are in a buying mode, and they need to find homes that they can afford, and the affordability is greater in Middletown than it is in Westchester. That's what's happening in Middletown. It's happening in Hamilton, Ohio. Spooky Nook is driving in Hamilton, doing a great job.
Gonna have what? Oh, yeah, I don't, that would be, city council would know about the firehouses. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yeah. So let me understand is, didn't they set up the lottery to help pay for the schools? Isn't that why?
Becomes a shell game.
Was set up? Okay, so I moved here 15 months ago. I was a resident my whole life someplace else, and I chose Middletown. I buy a house, 1 year later, my insurance went up $1,000. It doubled. I can't imagine what my property taxes would be. And yes, I'm on a fixed income. But here, you know, so now property taxes, so I'm paying 65% for the schools, but I don't have any children in schools.
Right.
I mean, is that, everything I said, is that correct information?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think in the argument that I hear Mr. Gilday, when people call in, they say we don't have kids in the schools, but I was public school taught as a child. There were people paying for me to go to school. Thomas is public school taught. So I think we want an educated citizenry. It's a very high priority in Butler County and in the country, education of our young people. So we do get a lot of complaints about that because it does cost so much, and it's a high priority item, and I agree they are probably overfunded in a lot of cases. Yes, you want to say something, Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, in the recent budget that was talked about before, a lot of schools actually came out against our bill today, and we fought back on a lot of schools. The House and Senate agreed upon a budget where we funded another $1 billion for public education here in the state of Ohio, literally $1 billion. We also, in the same token, took Ed Choice and created an Ed Choice here in Ohio and expanded Ed Choice here in Ohio to give families a chance. So whenever my public schools come at me, I was talking to I have Lakota, Monroe, Middletown, Madison, New Miami. Whenever they come at me, I remind them of the monies that we just gave in the Fair School Funding Plan, in the public education during the budget, because they were even fighting this bill to provide property tax relief for property tax payers, the people on a fixed income, the people that can't see these huge increases anymore because of the price of everything else being expensive. So that is something to remember when public schools say that, well, we don't have money or we need more money. We just gave them another bill, and I can show you the numbers for Butler County, for our district, of how well they did in our recent budget. So that argument should be invalid to a certain extent.
And the other thing I would like to add to that, the more money we keep giving to public schools, guess what grows? Administration, bureaucracy, Taj Mahals, facilities. Guess what is down in the last 30 years? Academic excellence. I'll say it again. Your school board is more important than your state senator, your state representative, your federal congressman. Pay attention to who's running for the school board and hold them accountable. Oh, and listen, there's a lot of questions that don't have to do with tax stuff. I'm going to give my cell phone number out. If you all can write it down, 513-658-8896. For those of you that didn't have a pen, I'll give it out again in about 10 minutes or so. If you have a question that's not related to tax stuff, call me anytime.
Well, yes. Okay, it's almost 8:40, so we'll do a couple more questions, then we'll be closing it up. Yes, sir. Okay. His home. Do you live in Middletown? Oh, Liberty Township. Actually, if you're in Liberty Township, you are in Lakota School District, which is not at the 20 mil floor. We are guesstimating 10 to 15% increase for Fairfield and Lakota school districts in the tax bill itself. And then school districts that are at the 20 mil floor, which includes Middletown, Edgewood, Monroe, those are 20 to 30% increase. That's our best guess. So Lakota is not going to experience the severe of increase. Yes, sir. That's likely to increase, yes. Now, we would tell you to call your mortgage company to see what exactly increase, and I'm sure it has to do with insurance and the property taxes. I don't know where else it would be, but yes, I would say because of our triennial update and the countywide residential increases, yes, I would guess that would eventually increase. But call your mortgage company. It's the same. Well, we have homestead that if for the elderly or disabled or veterans. Yes. No. And, I was county treasurer for 16 years, and the prosecutor does look at the delinquency list, and as property taxes are not paid and they grow to a certain amount, or they're at least several years old, the prosecutor will take steps to foreclose and send it to sheriff's sale. Now, we do work with our taxpayers, and I'll say this for Mike McNamara, he's the treasurer now. For people that have come on hard times, they will work with, with payment plans, trying to get people caught up. But eventually, if someone cannot afford their home, they will eventually be foreclosed upon. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes.
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 Second part of this, is there an audit procedure going on either by the legislature or somebody to monitor as we go along rather than this 3-year annex, to find out what they're doing and what can be done so that those checks and balances can be put in place in a more timely manner?
Yeah, so I don't know what was talked about before I got here. I tried to beat Columbus traffic and get here as quick as possible, but I ran into a little bit of construction. We tried to do this diplomatically. And when I say we, Senator Lang and I did not want to do legislation to correct this. We wanted to work with the tax commissioner, and it did not go well. We wanted to fight for our taxpayers. They don't care about you. And I mean that. They do not care. And we said a lot of choice words that I prayed for because I shouldn't have said them in the heat of the moment. But the reality is Columbus does not care about the property taxpayers in Butler County. We care because we talk to you. We listen to you. We listen to the people that are on a fixed income that can't afford the property tax increases. We hear those stories. The tax commissioner does not care, and their team does not care. So what we've done in this bill, we tried to do a 3-year, but we've also set up a system where instead of the county auditors having to file an appeal on this process, we're going to make the tax commissioner start filing an appeal to have a check and balance on what the tax commissioner, if Auditor Nix is coming up with 20% increase for your house and the tax commissioner is saying it should be 35, how in the hell are they getting 35 and when she has 20? You know, we need to start really reining in our state tax commissioner and making sure that, you know, legislatively what we can do is have oversight on the tax commissioner. And again, we wanted to see this done outside of the legislature, working in a good faith effort. That didn't get us anywhere. So that's when we turned to legislation. Some of the questions that you guys have, you won't get to ask tonight. I want to give you my cell phone number or my email. My state email is my first and last name, thomas.hall, Hall, at ohiohouse.gov. Please email me any questions that you guys have or concerns outside of this. It doesn't just have to be this. And again, that's thomas.hall at ohiohouse.gov. And then my cell phone is 513-254-5204.
Let me repeat my cell phone one more time in case anybody didn't have a pen out before that wants it. 513-658-8896. Call anytime.
Yes, ma'am.
So, tax commissioners that came up with this number to give all of us on our tax bills, they are state appointed by the governor, correct?
Yes.
And how long is their term? Indefinite?
I don't know that answer.
Their term, my understanding is their term at the pleasure of the governor. So the governor has one more 4-year term. He gets to fill out his cabinet, and he gets to fill out all the state agencies and the directors and the people that work for him.
Okay, so then someone that is appointed by the governor and they don't do their job at the pleasure of the governor, how are they gotten rid of?
How do you abolish it?
I believe.
Appeal to their actions that we can take as citizens.
I would say that the best thing you can do is you know, reach out to the governor's office, to his Department of Tax specifically, maybe not Department of Tax, but his tax policy individual specifically. The more they hear from the people, the better it is for us. When we go up there and we, you know, argue and complain, we do it because we've heard things back home. We don't just go up there to fight and complain about different issues. This issue, that the 3-year fix, this was our county prosecutor. This was his idea. This wasn't my idea. I just drafted it in legislation and was able to get people to vote for it and support me in this. But we found out about this in April. So a lot of this comes from the ground. Anything that you guys can provide to us helps our story when we're telling this story in Columbus to not only our colleagues, but the governor. One of the last things I'll say about the governor is he has to sign this bill. He can veto this bill. He has every power in his repertoire to veto the bill. Now, we have enough votes, I believe, to veto override him. And it's only happened one other time on a different subject. So I think that by showing more force, by showing more compassion about this issue, by hearing from people like you, it would help go a long way. Even if you send an email and you copied our office on it, or you send it to me and we send it on, whatever you can do to get your voices heard is important, especially in the state legislature.
Do we send it to the governor?
You can send it to me, you can send it to the governor, you can CC Senator Lang. The more we hear from you, the better it is for us to go up there, because right now it's just us going up there and complaining. And I have a long list of people that have reached out about property taxes. So I've been tying the 70/70, I've been tying this property tax bill all together, because we've heard from thousands of people from all across the state on property tax relief. 5204, I'm sorry, 5204. Yes, the Ohio legislature, it's obviously broken down in the House and the Senate, but I mean, if you just type in Ohio legislature, it should be able to connect you to either one to get some of those more contact information as well.
It is 10 till 9. We will have more of these town halls throughout the county if you have friends in other places who couldn't come tonight. So there's the schedule. It's also on our website. If you do have questions for the auditor, you can call us at 887-3154, or you can go to our website, butlercountyauditor.org, and you can ask questions through Contact the Auditor right there on the website, and we will get back with you. We also have a list here if you want to sign up to have an appraiser call you about your property individually. Just put your name and address and phone number, and Mike or one of his cohorts will give you a call about the increase, do an informal review with you. But I think that's going to be it, but I appreciate you being here tonight. Anything else before we close? What do you mean? I mean, they would all be there. Oh, we would look at just your property, and we would look at comps for sales of properties nearby. It wouldn't affect the other three. I mean, but if she goes through Board of Revision.
If you bring a value concern in your townhouse and yours is overvalued, we'll look at the other ones to make sure they're not all overvalued. Now, there could be a condition-related thing where you've got some condition-related issues that the other ones might not have. Plumbing issues, roof leak, carpet, dated, not updated, that type of stuff. So, yeah, sure, yeah, but they're not all the same on the inside. Okay. Yeah, so if you do have concerns, come talk to one of our appraisers. And if there's merit to what you're bringing to us, then we can make some adjustments.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, George.
Hey, everybody, I want to thank Nancy and the auditors for coming. A lot of local elected officials, they don't want to meet with constituents, especially when they know some might be a little pissed. But Nancy, thank you for hosting this, and thanks for fighting for us.
I appreciate everybody being here, so we'll stay here for a few minutes.